Okay, so the next time I came home from college, I was staying with my siblings, and my mom was in the hospital, and so I was doing all the things that you do, helping them with their homework and getting them fed and getting them to school and things like that. At the time, I had a thin scar across my wrist. The previous year when I had been home from college, I had burnt my wrist against a pan of boiled eggs. Not a traumatic thing, but I had this thin scar. Well, it was Grandparents' Day at the elementary school, and we still had 2 living grandparents, but my grandma was in Las Vegas, and my grandpa was hitchhiking across the United States, because they're both characters. But the elementary allowed for children who didn't have grandparents to have a stand-in. So the kids asked me to come and stand in as their grandmother. So I went to the elementary school that I had gone to elementary school at, and I went to all of their classes, and I looked at their art, and I looked at their reading charts and how many stars they had, and I ate lunch with my brother in kindergarten, and then they had a big assembly where they had each of the grandparents stand up one at a time in each grade, and they clapped for all the grandparents in that grade. I just stood up the whole time because I had a grandchild in every grade. And then the kids all sang us a song, and then a magician performed. And he asked for volunteers. I was sitting on the front row with the kindergartners. And first he went by and he had everyone test the rings, all the kindergartners and me test the rings that were together to make sure they were really stuck together, and they were, as far as I could tell. But then he asked for a volunteer, and all the kindergartners and every kid in the elementary school raised their hand, but he picked me. And I was really happy because I had always secretly wanted to be picked by a magician. I had pictured myself in a smoky nightclub type setting in an evening gown, and the magician would be tall and dark and handsome. And this guy was kind of short and round, and it was the cafeteria where I'd eaten lunch all through elementary school. But still, it was really exciting. And he took my hand and led me up on stage, and I helped him with all the tricks and made sure everything worked. And I didn't mess up, so I was really glad that I didn't embarrass my siblings. And then everything was over, and the magician asked me if I would help him pack up his stuff and carry it out to the car. So I did. And when we got to the car, he said, "Do you know why I picked you to be my assistant?" And I was thinking, because I've always been meant to be a magician's assistant. But no, he said, "When you tested the rings, I noticed this." And he pointed to the scar on my wrist. And I said, "Oh yeah, my scar. I got that on a pan of boiled eggs." And he said, "You don't have to lie to me. I'm not just a magician, I'm also a pastor, and I've helped a lot of people with problems like yours. And I just want you to know that you are not alone, and I'm here for you." And his eyes started to well up, and he said, "I want to give you my card, and I want you to call me if you ever feel alone." And for a minute, I thought about lying to him and saying, "Thank you so much." Because sometimes I lie to people because I don't like to disappoint people. Like when someone comes running up to me in the grocery store and they say, "Kathy!" And I say, "Hey!" And they say, "Where were you on Friday?" And I say, "The kids were kind of sick, and we were busy." And then she says, "Oh, Kathy?" And then I say, "No, I'm Tamathy." And then she looks really grumpy at me and kind of mean and says, "Oh." And then she walks away really fast. And then when I run into her again at some other part of the grocery store, she doesn't smile at me. That happens a lot. It happens in the bookstore, it happens in the bank. People always think that I'm someone else, someone that I'm not. And I've gotten used to it. And sometimes I don't want to make them feel bad, so I just go along with it. So I thought about lying to the magician. But you know what? I wanted to be me. I got the scar on my arm, pouring off like 3 dozen eggs into a sink. I didn't drop the eggs. I kept pouring the water off. Then I made this giant batch of tuna salad for my 18 or 20 or however many there were at the time, brothers and sisters. And I made all these huge pile of sandwiches and took them out in the yard and fed all the kids. And they were all happy and they loved the best tuna salad ever and came back for more. That's who I was. So I said, that's who I was. And so he quickly got in his car and left. When I tell my brothers and sisters about going to Grandparents' Day, and when I tell them about the magician, they say, "That was you?" I thought that was Grandma. And when I remind them of the best tuna salad ever and the picnics I took them on,